All right, looking at rhythm A, we have 86 tempo and a 3/4 time signature. And the first thing we have is a pickup quarter note into the first measure. 3/4 meter breaks down unevenly into 2+1 and sometimes into 1+2 beats, usually 2+1. So let's take a look at the first full measure. We have the 2 beats is a half note and the 1 beat is 2/8 notes. Following that, 2 beats is a quarter and 2/8 notes. 1 beat is a quarter note. And notice that now the quarter note is tied over the bar to the next measure. That tie connects it to a half note for the first 2 beats, and then a quarter note for the third beat. Next measure, first two beats are 2/8 notes and a quarter note, and then there's a quarter rest. Next measure, 2 quarter rests, and then 2/8 notes. Again, remember that in 3/4 time, we use quarter rests for 2 beats of rest, not a half rest. This measure here flips the beat structure, so we have 1 beat as 2/8 notes, followed by 2 beats as a half note, and this half note is tied over the bar. Next measure, we have the tied quarter note, and then 2/8 notes, and then a quarter note. Next measure, 2/8 notes and 2/8 notes, and a quarter note. Next measure, we have a half note for 2 beats, and then quarter rest for 1 beat. First 2 beats is a quarter rest and 2/8 notes, and then a quarter note. Next measure, first 2 beats is a quarter rest and 2/8 notes, and then a quarter note. Next measure, we have a quarter rest and 2/8 notes, and then a quarter note. This quarter note is tied over the bar. Next measure, we have the tied half note, and then a quarter note. Then the next measure, we have 2/8 notes and a quarter note, followed by a quarter note, and that quarter note is tied over the bar. Next measure, we have the tied quarter note and 2/8 notes for the first 2 beats, and then 2 more 8th notes for the third beat. Then we have 2 quarter notes and 2/8 notes, 2/8 notes and 2/8 notes for the first 2 beats, and then 2 more 8th notes for the third beat. Now this may not look all that necessary to break this measure down, but really you feel it that way. The structure of the beats and the accents of each of those beats really breaks down in 2+1. And then the final measure is a unequal half measure. It's 2 beats only, because the third beat is the pickup to the beginning. All right, let's try this one. Here's the metronome. Ta ta ti ti ta ti ti ta ta ti ti ta ti 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 ta ti ti ta ti 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 ta ta ti ti ta ti ti ta ti ti ta ta ti ti ta ta ti 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 ta ta ti 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 ta. Rhythm B, we are again in 3/4. This time there's no tempo, so take it however you like it. We have a pickup of 2/8 notes. Next measure, a dotted quarter and an eighth. That takes up 2 beats. Remember, that's the rhythm we just learned this week. And then a quarter note. Next measure, dotted quarter note and an 8th note plus 2/8 notes. Next measure, syncopation plus 2/8 notes. Next measure, we have a quarter note, 8th rest, 8th note, and then 2/8 notes. And we have a dotted quarter and an 8th note and 2/8 notes. Syncopation, 2/8 notes. syncopation, 2/8 notes. Next line, measure 8. Quarter note, eighth rest, eighth note, followed by 2/8 notes. That's your 2+1 beat structure. Dotted quarter note and an eighth note, followed by 2 more eighth notes. Syncopation, followed by 2/8 notes, and that eighth note is tied. Syncopation, the first eighth note of that is tied to the previous measure, and then we have a quarter note. Here we have a quarter note, eighth rest, eighth note, followed by 2/8 notes. Now we have a dotted quarter note and an eighth note, followed by a quarter note. Dotted quarter, eighth note, quarter note. Syncopation, quarter note. And then a half note for the last measure. The third beat of that is in the pickup to the beginning. Let's try this one. All right, this melody doesn't have a tempo marking, so we can take it nice and slow. Ti-ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, ti-ti-ti, ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta. Ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti, ti-ta, ti-ti-ti, ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta. Ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, ti-ta, 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 ta. All right, there was that tricky part there with the syncopation and the tie. So let's practice that as a drill, those two measures. Okay, so second line, measure 8, 9, measures 10 and 11. Ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta. Ti-ta, ti-ti. Ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta. Ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta. Ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta. Okay, I think I got it. Maybe I'll try the whole thing again. Ti-ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, ti-ti-ti, ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta. Ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta. Ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta-ta. Ti-ti-ti-ta, ti-ta-ta, ti-ta, ti-ta, ti-ta-ta. All right, good.